I'm Don with the Law Office of Don R. Dennis Jr. My office helps businesses that are involved in complex business deals. The issue is this: when you sign an agreement, are there adequate protections to help you in the event things don't go as planned? And do you comprehensively understand all the terms in the agreement? As an engineer, experienced attorney, and certified privacy professional, I've seen all types of agreements. My office's motto is engage diligence, because I believe clients have the right to a responsive attorney that has the same energy for them from the beginning until the end. If you're looking for an attorney that's going to fight for you and not with you on your matter, contact my office at 213-455-0880. Hello. This is Attorney Don Dennis, and we are live. We are live on this Monday evening discussing some very interesting topics. We're talking about ethics. We're talking about how Coach Deion Sanders has been publicly educating Coach Nick Saban of Alabama with respect to these NILs, or name, image, and likeness deals, also under the auspices of right of publicity. Everyone has a right of publicity in America, and now these deals have been expanded to allow student athletes to make money. So we're going to be talking about that tonight. We're going to be talking about the implications, what they mean, but more importantly, we're going to be talking about the important tips that Coach Sanders has laid out that we all can benefit from, and you especially can benefit from in respect to how you operate your business for success. So I am Attorney Don Dennis. This video is for educational purposes, and no attorney-client relationship is formed between any viewer and my office unless there is a signed engagement agreement on file. As always, the goal of this channel is to help you protect your business income and your income in general, and help you avoid being taken advantage of when you're engaging in signing contracts. That is our goal, and that is what we are going to accomplish. This is a live interactive webinar, so I'm going to, hello Corey, I'm glad you are here. We're going to drop the link so that anyone, when we're done, is welcome to come up and speak. And also, I encourage you to give me your feedback as we go over these topics, because these are some very important topics. I am a transactional attorney with over 10 years of experience practicing law and over 10 years of experience working as an engineer. So I've seen an assortment of deals, and I have also dealt with a lot of social media personalities and helped them negotiate and write licensing agreements, because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about a licensing agreement at the core of the matter. A licensing agreement basically means you are giving someone your permission to use some aspect about you so that they can make some money. Whether they put your picture on the front of a shirt, whether you do a commercial such as an athlete might do for McDonald's or Burger King, at the end of the day, you're giving them a license to do so. You're giving them permission to do so. And that's what we're talking about. You know, if you haven't already, please hit that like and subscribe button so you know when I go live, and you definitely can get that notification and join promptly. But something that really stands out to me in this, in order for the student athletes to obtain permission to be able to engage in these types of deals, the battle went all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court. And several people sued the NCAA, and the NCAA lost. So that's where this all came from. And they lost last year. So that allowed college athletes to profit. And then now a lot of high school athletes in certain states can also enter into these deals. And as you might hear in the media, what we're going to get into is Nick Saban, Coach Nick Saban of Alabama, his comments having some issues with his recruiting class, in which he was speaking, from my understanding, to different boosters and other individuals that he felt if they had donated or they should donate more money, so he has more money available through outside collectives to offer deals to athletes. But here's the deal. It sure is interesting to me that there's so much uproar about this. There's so many people are upset and so bothered, and they're, especially with respect to Coach Deion Sanders and what he was able to achieve. But think about something. Everything that happens in life is not videotaped or recorded. Everything that happens in life is not on Instagram, Facebook, and social media. So you might say, well, what are you talking about? What do you mean? If you go to the south side of Chicago, South Central, Watts, Harlem, the Bronx, there are various young men right now and young women that are athletes that are not wealthy. They're making all types of sacrifices. Their parents and family are making sacrifices so that they can have the necessary equipment that they need: shoes, uniforms, go to different tournaments, go to away games, and do all the things that they need to do to be an athlete. But we don't hear anyone upset about that. We don't hear a lot of these major universities upset and saying, hey, we make so much money each year, let's go into these areas and help these athletes out. What I've seen is they're interested, once the athletes are about to graduate from high school, once they're college eligible, now there's an interest in them. So when they don't have necessarily all the financial resources and money to do what they want to do to better themselves, to go to these summer camps and trainings and things of that nature, where's all the uproar? Where's all the interest? But once they overcome that hurdle and now they have opportunities to make money, well, we need to be careful. We need to make sure this is not pay to play. This is not a scheme. This is not something underhanded that shouldn't go on. The interesting question is, we've all heard stories, and there's been movies and reports of universities throughout the country finding ways to pay and compensate athletes before this case went to the Supreme Court. But we're not spending and devoting too much time talking about that. But the reason that I said initially that not everything is videotaped is because I haven't really seen any stories on YouTube all the time or on Instagram where they're showing athletes struggling to go to practice, struggling at the store to put together money to buy the equipment and other things that they need. No one's focused on that. But when they finally get to the point where they can accumulate and make money on their own, now we need all types of rules. Now we need to watch and monitor this, because from what it appears, the university is not keeping all that money, because in the past, when you were able to put an athlete's name on your logo or on your brochure or to entice other people to come to the school, the university was keeping most of the money. Yes, the athletes get scholarship. They might get free food, free medical to make sure that they're healthy enough to play. However, they still want and have desires as any other person in life. These athletes have an opportunity to better not only themselves, but to better their families. So we're going to talk about some of the legalities involved in this and the way it works, so we all are on the same page. So let's get right into it and talk about the clip. And I just edited this clip to show exactly what Nick Saban said and how this got started in the first place. So I'm going to share my screen and just listen closely to what he said. Here we go.
The thing that I fear is at some point in time, they're just going to say we're going to have to pay players. If we start paying players, we're going to have to eliminate sports. All right, and this is all bad for college sports. I mean, we probably have, 450 people on scholarship in Alabama, whether they're women's tennis players, women's softball players, golfers, baseball players, non-revenue sports that have for years and years and years been able to create a better life for themselves because they've been able to get scholarships and participate in college athletics. That's what college athletics is supposed to be. It's not supposed to be something where people come and make decision about where you go to school based on how much money you earn.
Can these Tesla solar panels give you free electricity?
Hold on just a second.
Did you know that you could get...
All right, we're right back.
You should make a decision based on where you have the best chance to develop as a person, as a student, and as a player, which is what we've always tried to major in. And we're going to continue to do that. Hopefully there's enough people out there that want to do it. But I know the consequence is going to be difficult for the people who are spending tons of money to get players. And you've read about them. You know who they are. I mean, we were second in recruiting last year. A&M was first. A&M bought every player on their team. Made a deal for name, image, and likeness. All right, we didn't buy one player. All right, but I don't know if we're going to be able to sustain that in the future because more and more people are doing it. So it's tough. And people blame the NCAA. But in defense of the NCAA, we are where we are, right, because of the litigation that the NCAA gets, like the transfer portal. Every time somebody wanted to transfer, they'd apply for a waiver. Right? If you didn't give them, if the NCAA didn't give them a waiver so they could be immediately eligible, they filed suit. So the NCAA would back off and give them a waiver. So they said, we're just going to make a rule where everybody can transfer. That's how that happened. So if the NCAA doesn't get some protection from litigation, whether we got to get an antitrust or whatever it is, from a federal government standpoint, this is not going to change because they cannot enforce their rules. Just like Nate said, we have a rule right now that says you cannot use name, image, and likeness to entice a player to come to your school. Hell, read about it in the paper. I mean, Jackson State paid a guy $1 million last year that was a really good Division I player to come to school. It was in the paper, and they bragged about it. Nobody did anything about it. I mean, these guys at Miami that are going to play basketball there for $400,000, it's in the newspaper. The guy tells you how he's doing it. So, but the NCAA can't enforce their rules because it's not against the law. And that's an issue. That's a problem. And unless we get something that protects them from litigation, I don't know what we're going to do about it.
So he doesn't know what we're going to do about it. He says specifically, you're going to have people coming to school, picking universities they want to go to so that they can make money. Well, what are the universities doing off of the athletes that come there? They're making hundreds of millions of dollars and have been making them for years. In addition, in the interview, Coach Saban talked about what they're doing because, again, he's trying to motivate individuals to join the collective and donate more money so they have money to give out to, doesn't the school, exactly, that's what the school does. What paper was that? Yeah, that's exactly what the school does. They're doing it in reverse. They're making the money. And Nick says, what paper was that? Sounds like, yeah, he definitely is hating on the opportunity for people other than the schools to make money. That was a broadcast, let's see here, from Alabama Crimson Tide on AL.com to answer your question, Nick. So exactly, that's the whole reason why coaches have scouts out there. This is what they're trying to do. Also, he said he's concerned because if we start paying players, we have to eliminate certain things. And it's not supposed to be about making money. Well, if it's not about making money, why do the coaches get all types of bonuses and incentives and the school get bonuses and incentives if they go to bowl games? Everyone knows how much schools make if they go to the Rose Bowl or the Fiesta Bowl or the FedEx Bowl. It is without a doubt, everyone knows about that. But now that the players are having an opportunity to cash in on this, there's an issue. There's some type of issue. So these are the comments that we're talking about tonight. And yeah, you can check out the whole interview. I fast forwarded it just to the part where, you know, he starts speaking about Coach Jimbo Fisher over at Texas A&M and Coach Sanders at Jackson State University. Nevertheless, now let's talk a little bit deeper about name, image, and likeness. What we're talking about is something that has been around forever. This is not anything new. And most attorneys historically call it rights of publicity. You have a right of publicity and you can sell it Actors do it all the time. You can sell your name to someone, the right to use your name in certain contexts, your voice, your image, your likeness, your signature, your photograph. But what happened now is once the Supreme Court, what was going on before, it's very simple. The athletes would go to the field, the coaches would go to the field, and they would play. And you see a game, or you see someone on the basketball court, and they're playing a simple game of musical chairs. And the music plays, and we all have played musical chairs even as a child. And when the music stops playing, the only person that had a seat, and under the seat was a prize of money, was the university and all their staff. But now we're setting more chairs out here. Now at the end of the game, when the music stops, athletes have a seat to sit down, and under their chair is some money. And other people have a seat to sit down. And so now all of a sudden that they're thinking that the money is going to be divided and people are going to go get paid and get compensated for their work. It's a big problem. It's something that could make things go totally immoral and totally issue, all kind of issues. That's all that's going on. This is also, I'm so glad you're checking this interview out. This live stream out, because this is going to affect high school athletes, and it already has. So this is giving all types of underprivileged individuals the opportunity to make money, which is phenomenal and which is what they deserve. Because if you're out there risking your body, your fingers, your limbs, your ligaments, you should be paid, not just applauded. Applause is great, but payment is best. So what are some ways that students, athletes in high school or college can make money? I give you, in general, they're selling their name, their image, their likeness, but how exactly can they get paid? What can they be paid for? They can get paid, and how do the payments work? First of all, they can get paid by giving free food. That is a form of compensation. Now, free food does not pay your bills. It doesn't keep your lights on, but it is technically payment. So if they did a deal for their local fast food burger place in the area, they might get something where have a voucher to eat as much as they want whenever they want. Or you can get paid financially. And a lot of times, as I've talked about in other videos, you're getting a percentage of sales that the merchandise might sell with your name or image on it. So if they sell a bunch of shirts and it has a restaurant and your picture's underneath it, then that's easy to calculate how many shirts were sold. And if you're entitled to 30%, then you get paid 30% off of each shirt that's sold. Also, student athletes are getting paid off of social media posts. So they might say, hey, can you go ahead and post something for our company? And if you do so, we'll give you, basically, let's say you have 100,000 followers on TikTok or 200,000 on Instagram. Well, every time you make a post, we'll pay you. And if you do a certain number of posts every week, let's say leading up to a game to get people excited and they know they're going to see you on TV or see you all around campus, they're more than willing to pay. So athletes are getting paid for that. They're getting paid for billboard ads, autograph sessions. Are you showing up to sign balls, to sign jerseys? You can be paid for that. They can also make money for appearance fees. Let's say they go show up at an event at a restaurant or somewhere else. You can get derived payment for that. And also athletes can be paid for putting on summer skill sets or skill camps during the off season. This is a great opportunity for when they're not playing to go back and teach youth that look up to them and at the same time be paid for it. So this is opening up a tremendous amount of opportunities for athletes to cash in on their skills and all of the hard work that they've put in practice over the years to get to this. So one of the things is that I'm going to give a few examples of some high school athletes that have been able to capitalize off of their likeness. There's an Ian Jackson that's 16 years old and John Will Boogie Flynn that's 15 years old. They are both high school basketball players, and they both have signed sponsorship deals for their name, image, or likeness in various capacities. And I want to, this just really stood out in my mind. Ian Jackson at 16, they asked him what he was going to do with his deal, and he said he wants to help his family buy a home. So these this is real life information. This is real life situations that people are not just using it to add on to the money. These student athletes are not like universities, where the university is just adding money to their pot of all the other money that they have, their endowments. No, these are athletes that are using the money presently to better an existing situation that needs improvement. Buying a home is a very noble idea to do for your family. In addition, another athlete, Mikey Williams, he signed a deal with Puma. And the list goes on, and it grows each and every day. So this is not just theoretical. This is not just someone far that you can't touch, but these are real life circumstances, real life situations that we're dealing with. We're going to show some clips. And again, this video is for educational purposes as we are teaching and explaining the law and how it pertains to this. And we're going to show some clips that Coach Sanders did on I Am Athlete, and we're going to explain what exactly he was trying to teach Coach Nick Saban. So as you saw Nick Saban's ideas, you saw his statements, whether or not you agree with them. But now, in a very professional manner, we have to know how to employ ethical conduct. And for the sake of discussion on this evening, what we're talking about with respect to ethical conduct is standards of professional conduct. So being able to conduct yourself as a professional despite things that are going on, despite unfortunate circumstances, that's what we're talking about. Because everyone, especially business leaders, are going to be challenged and they're going to go through things. But how they handle it is the key. So you heard what Nick Saban said about Coach Sanders, and basically when he said about Jackson State University, and since Deion Sanders is the coach there, that's who he's talking about. And so let's hear what Deion said. We're going to share the screen because this is our first lesson we're going to talk about tonight. All right. This is a very short statement, but very powerful.
We don't have to pay our people to train with our people on something that extent, but we don't have to pay our people to train with our people on something that extent, but we don't have to pay our people to train with our people.
We don't have to pay our people to play with our people. So when he said we don't have to pay our people to play with our people, he's talking about we don't have to pay Black people to play for Black people. Jackson State University is a historically Black university. It's an HBCU, which is a historically Black college or university. So what his first response was, is he's saying we don't have to do underhanded things. We don't have to entice Black people to stick together and support other Black people. So contrary to what Nick Saban was saying, what did you do to entice this? Number one, because what happened was Deion Sanders was able to recruit the number one athlete coming out of high school, Travis Hunter, to go to Jackson State. So what Nick Saban was basically saying was there had to have been something behind it. It had to have been money. It wasn't just he wanted to go play at an HBCU when there's all these other universities out there. So what's behind it? So it must be money. That's what it was. And so that's why Deion started off by saying we don't have to pay our people to play for our people. Now let's get to the second part of what Deion said and what we can learn from him. I'm going to share this video. Let's see here. Here we go. There's a lot of clips, so bear with me as we play. Here we go.
Because Because you never want to make a declaration or give a response based on emotion. You always want to always bring it down. Always, no matter what, especially in a relationship, bring it down. Okay.
So what he said is, after Nick Saban made that remark, he did not respond immediately. He said in general, and this is something that is extremely great advice for businesses, for clients. I give it all the time. Do not respond based on emotions, because emotions oftentimes are just when you're high strung, you're not thinking clearly, and what you blurt out, what you post, what you send out as a text message cannot be erased. And if you're dealing with someone that has not been thinking logically, that is not operating out of a sound mind, and you fall into that trap and you respond emotionally, it can have all types of detrimental effects. In addition, it reflects poorly on you being able to maintain your professionalism. And that's what we're talking about with respect to the lessons that Coach Sanders has been teaching Coach Saban in these circumstances. In addition, Coach Sanders said, as he thought about his response, he wanted to give 3 specific lessons. And we're going to show what those 3 lessons were. And then we're going to break them down. So let's see here. Okay, got the clip. Here we go. So listen carefully.
Keep that straight. I gotta be professional. My head coach. People are looking up to me. Keep that straight. I gotta be professional. My head coach. People are looking up to me and depending on me. That's number 2. I gotta represent our people. I gotta represent our people well. And number 3, I gotta check him so he knows. Don't play with me. So I'll keep that straight. I gotta be professional. My head coach. People are looking up to me and depending on me. That's number 2. I gotta represent our people. I gotta represent our people well. And number 3, I gotta check him so he knows. Don't play with me.
Yes, and Terrell, that's correct. Terrell says, let's show that comment because this is important. Let's show this. Terrell says Nick Saban knows the impact that HBCU attractiveness means to his program. Coach Prime used this as a teachable moment and did a wonderful job of doing so. Yes, that is exactly right, Terrell. And let's talk about those lessons he just gave out. Be professional. You have people looking up to you. So if Coach Sanders acts with no restraint, how do the young men coming out of high school that are on his team learn to behave under tough circumstances? So that's why he said he has to be professional, because people are looking up to him. And what he's saying is setting model behavior. So if you are a business owner, and as I tell my clients, go ahead and think about, you're setting the culture of your company. If you're setting the culture of your company, you have to display professionalism, because if you don't show it, they cannot emulate it. So that's the first lesson. The second lesson is, again, he's showing deference and respect to the HBCU institution. And he said, not only does he have to represent our people, and he's referring to Black people, he said he has to do so well. Why is he focused on having to do it well? Well, if you look in the media, it often depicts Black men as being angry or doing other things. It shows negative aspects. And so what he's doing is showing like, hey, those are stereotypes. Those are not accurate. Let's show how we conduct ourselves. Let's show something that the mainstream media and other outlets don't show. And that's why he said he's going to represent our people well. The third lesson that he gave out is he said he was going to check him, meaning he is going to correct Coach Sanders is going to correct Coach Saban in the inaccurate statements that he made, in the false accusations that he's made and lodged against Jackson State University, and the manner in which he's going to check him again exudes his professionalism. And we're going to talk about that, and we're going to show that. Also, as you can see from the first video that we showed with Coach Saban made his comments publicly. However, he reached out to Coach Sanders privately to address correcting them and maybe possibly to apologize and offer further explanation. And Coach Sanders had an interesting response to that. And we're going to hear what that response was and his rationale for it. So let's see. Let's make sure this volume is up so everyone can hear. And we're going to share this screen. Here we go. Share screen. So again, this is Coach Sanders' response to Coach Saban stating, after he started all of this, it made his comments saying, let's have a conversation privately.
When you sit down and talk with him,
Let me tell you how I get that. If you go at me in public,
Uh-oh. What happened? I'm sorry, we're having some technical difficulty here. Hold on, I don't know. Well, unfortunately, we're having a technical difficulty and the video is not showing. But what he said is, if you go at me in public, we're going to resolve the matter in public. We're not going to have a private conversation for something that you started publicly. And what this is not about mudslinging. This is not about having an argument. But again, as Terrell said earlier, it's a teachable moment. Who is Coach Sanders teaching? He's teaching Nick Saban first and foremost. He's teaching his football team. He's teaching all the young people at the university how you handle and resolve things, and that two individuals with differences of opinion can talk intelligently, even if it involves one person correcting the other person. So that's what he was talking about when he goes into that segment concerning we would have that discussion publicly. You brought up the comments and your ideas and the false accusations publicly, so we're going to resolve it publicly. Next, we have another clip, and let's make sure this clip shows properly. Okay, it looks like it should be ready to go. So let's get this up here. All right. Here we go. Okay. Now let's play properly.
you gotta understand, I don't hold grudges. I have the utmost respect for coaches.
Okay. Let's see. So now these clips are not performing properly. Well, we're going to move on without them. But I will tell you what he said. He said he doesn't hold grudges. He said that he is going to he's able to acknowledge all the great things about Nick Saban, and they can move past those things. So he's not going to hold a grudge and become bitter about the matter and not conduct himself as a professional in other arenas. And that's very important. This is an ethical lesson that we're teaching here, because by not holding a grudge, you're not letting things weigh on your mind and prevent you from moving forward with a clear conscience. And that's what he was trying to say, and that's what is extremely important. The next point is, in that video, in that interview, that Coach Sanders had, they asked him, what are your thoughts about the fact that Coach Saban also made attacks at Texas A&M and Jimbo Fisher, almost as if to get him to weigh in and give his opinion on that. And he specifically advised staying out of matters. Why is this another exemplary act of professional conduct and ethical behavior? Because he's not going to get held down and get into the thick of the mud of something that doesn't concern him. It does not concern Jackson State University. It does not concern anything that's going to help further his program or promote anything positive. So he said, in general, he stays out of matters and he makes it a point not to attack people's character publicly. Again, once you put something out there, especially now in this day and age of the internet and social media and the World Wide Web, you can't get it back. And you never know. Life is long. You never know what might come up later and how it might impact you. So you want to be very careful, especially if it's a matter that doesn't even involve you. So that's what he was talking about here. Now, the last clip talked about that I was going to show is what would happen if he did ever confront him, or how he would conduct himself. He said he's not looking, if he ever confronted Nick Saban in person or somewhere else, he's not looking for explanation as to why Coach Saban said what he said. He's not even worried about it. He said his focus is not on yesterday, but his focus is on the future. Again, exactly. Corey said that is a valuable lesson that we're learning here from Coach Sanders. And Terrell said they are trying to bait him. He's doing something very well, and it's hurting the pockets of the Power 5 universities. The only color that matters is green. Exactly. And so what we have to do is not fall, as he said, for the bait and focus on, look, something happened. I'm not holding a grudge. I'm moving forward. And if he saw him in person, he's not going to keep going over this with him. He said, let's move forward and get on to the next goals. And having that mindset, having that precise pinpoint accuracy allows your program, allows your business to continue to exceed. It allows you, when I have clients that have this mindset and they come meet with me and they're not trying to rehash things that are far in the past, it allows us to further their present goals, to focus on future goals, and to meet all the milestones in the meantime of achieving those goals. And this is extremely productive behavior, because how much money is it going to bring into Jackson State or help any of these players to sit up and talk and practice with them about Saban's comment week after week and day after day? It's not going to be beneficial at all. And if it's not beneficial, why is it on the agenda? And so his last clip, his last statement was moving on and focusing on goals. Now, these rights of publicity, or as they're known now, name, image, and likeness deals, do have a lot of legal issues within them. And so again, it is extremely important to have an attorney or someone that is knowledgeable in this area assist you and assist these student athletes to make sure they're getting the best deals. Extremely important. So right now, what we see is we have a bunch of people jumping in the pool. So if you imagine the pool is filled with money, that all of these athletes are now walking around and they're looking through a pool that's almost neck high of money that they can grab. Who is representing and advising these student athletes? You have coaches jumping into it. I read an article over the weekend about a junior in college that's not an athlete representing student athletes. You have marketing consultants. So they're charging between 15% and 20% to get paid to represent these athletes. And they're saying that they'll put together a team and they'll help make sure you get the best possible deal on the best possible terms. And that is the current landscape. Also, what are some of the things that you need representation for? There are rules in place that you have to make sure you're abiding by. There are laws in place. Certain states have laws allowing high school athletes to participate in these deals, and certain states don't. So you have to make sure you're in compliance with that. In addition, schools have rules and procedures that must be followed to make sure, and you want to make sure you do that because you don't want to lose your eligibility to play. We have a question from Terrell. Did the norm used to be 3%? I think the norm might have been a little bit more, but again, everything is evolving right now, and that was Terrell's question concerning that. Yeah, everything is evolving right now. I think it was a little bit higher, but it all is subject to negotiation. In addition, what are some other things? As always on this channel, we talk about the hidden parts of contracts, such as whether there's arbitration. What would happen if you have these student athletes signing these deals and there's a dispute? They don't get the royalties they're entitled to. They don't get their payments they're entitled to. The company that they're working with goes out of business. They go bankrupt. So some form of due diligence needs to be done on these companies because you have young, impressionable young men and women that are focused on playing sports, focused on getting their degrees, and now they're business people, they're entertainers, so they need adequate representation to check these contracts out. Also, one of the issues that comes up is that these deals cannot include, and this is at pretty much most universities, any representation or deals for alcoholic beverage companies or for drug companies, meaning illegal drugs or gambling or things of that nature. And although medical marijuana is legal in some states, some schools are not going to allow their athletes to represent those type of deals, or the pornography industry, or strip clubs or things of that nature. So these are all things that have to be checked out before these athletes sign these deals, because businesses don't necessarily have the same vested interest that these athletes and their families have to make sure that they remain compliant. You don't want a situation where an athlete has worked hard his entire or her entire life to get to the pinnacle of their success, to get to the point where they're being offered deals, and now they're being taken away because they signed a deal unbeknownst to them that violates a university rule, that violates some law they weren't aware of. So you need a knowledgeable attorney that can help them decipher these kind of things. In addition, if athletes or any influencer or anyone is being compensated to endorse something on social media, there are certain rules from the Federal Trade Commission that have to be complied with. And there's a whole assortment of how you have to disclose this is a paid advertisement and it has to be above the line and things of that nature. Well, can we expect student athletes to be knowledgeable and experts in all of these different rules? Not exactly. So that's why they have to be informed. Corey said, and let's see here, we have a comment from Corey. He said, I think it's interesting. I think it seems as these schools should implement a legal aid service retainer similar to jobs with EAPs to help them automatically. Yeah, that's a possible point. Schools should look into these things because obviously legal representation is not free. Everyone wants to be paid for their work, whether you work at Wendy's or whether you work in a corporate office downtown. No one is going there just for the love, for the good, out of the goodness of their heart. Everyone has real life obligations and responsibilities, and therefore you have to have representation. Now, what I would say, Corey, is I think that you will now have a lot of attorneys, being that they know that the population of the audience of the potential clients may not have the upfront money, that would be willing to work on contingency or some type of other fee arrangement to make it more palatable. So I can definitely see that happening. And if you haven't already, please hit that like and subscribe button. Please do me a big favor of hitting that like button. It helps get the algorithm spread out and it helps get those notifications, and share this valuable information, because we want, as always on this channel, to prevent people from being taken advantage of and to make sure that people sign deals and contracts that are in their best interest. And the only way to get that information out is to hit that like and subscribe button. Thank you. Nick C says this is excellent. advice as always. Thank you very much. So what I want to say is this. If there's any questions, please put them in the chat, because I can't overemphasize this enough. As I always say, it only takes 5 seconds to sign your name on a contract, and it can take years to get out of that agreement. Corey says the school should foot the cost as to protect their investment. Yeah, why not? The schools do not mind paying for the food for the athletes, and they don't mind paying whatever makeup, wardrobe, costume, lighting, or anything else that's necessary when the athletes are doing commercials for them, especially back in the past when they're keeping all the money. So why not help the athletes? If they're so concerned, it's nothing to provide them this type of assistance, especially in light of the fact that a lot of schools, especially major universities, have law schools, and they already have a built-in population of professors and attorneys that could provide some type of clinical service where the students are gaining experience, the law students, and the professors are guiding them, and the undergraduate students or other students are benefiting, and it's all within the same university family. So I think that's an excellent idea. So what I want to say is this: in any contract, in any deal, you have to think carefully and not get clouded and not have a cloudy, fuzzy mind, because rats and mice love cheese, but they often don't pay attention to the trap. What's the trap? The trap is chasing money and not focusing on the intricacies of the deal. So Nick C says, does your office represent athletes? Yes, my office represents athletes and individuals in general with respect to social media and licensing deals. How could high school or college athletes go about reaching out to you? They can. Does the parent? Yes. So with respect to high school athletes and contracts in general, a person has to be of the age of majority, meaning 18 years or older, in order to sign a valid contract. So if we're talking about high school students, they would need to have their parent or guardian contact our office so we can talk and see how we can be of assistance to them in these type of deals. And the office website is dondennislaw.com, and the number is 213, and I'll put the number in the chat. It's 213-455-0880. 213-455-0880, and it's dondennislaw.com. So again, I want to thank everyone for this engaging discussion tonight. I invite you to check out other videos on the website so that you can really have a full perspective of how to best protect your interests, how to best protect your profits and your royalty, and get all of the money that is due to you. You've put in the work. You've invested in the business. You've went to these practices, these drills, ran up and down the field, giving your body and exercise as hard as possible. So the same way prior to last year that the universities were taking and making the majority of the money, you should as well. So I encourage you. Oh, let's see. We have another question. Do you also cover? Yes. My office does a substantial amount of work with respect to intellectual property, and even more so making sure, and all of this actually is under intellectual property. So all of these ideas, when we're talking about licensing agreements, of copyright agreements, right of publicity, trademark, for example, if a student athlete has a logo, this is all under intellectual property. So yes, my office handles that, and we try to put together deals, and we make it a point of putting together deals that will best protect people and not just look out for the current situation, but things to come. What am I talking about? What I'm talking about is, Corey, for example, if we put together a deal and we said, hey, Corey is entitled to all the money off of the movies that he's made on Netflix. Well, what happens if we did that deal a few years ago and now we have streaming on demand? We have Paramount Plus. We have Disney on demand. Well, we didn't include that. So our office tries to think comprehensively about the current landscape of revenue and money-making opportunities now and things to come so that people and my clients are not cut out of deals. Let's see here. Terrell says the potential of a large sum of money will definitely cloud the judgment of these youngsters, especially those from impoverished areas. How do we go about spreading this message close to home first? The quickest way, and then nationally is what he said, his next thing. The quickest way is because so many of our young people are online and into videos, is making sure that they see videos like this, that they share this content, because when they see this, hopefully they can relate to me. Hopefully what I've said has not went above their heads and it makes sense, because if it makes sense, they're going to listen. So that's the quickest way, the fastest way, the most inexpensive way to share this information. And then from there, it's a matter of maybe reaching out to schools, high schools in the area that are willing to allow this type of information to come into the schools, where my office or another office can come and talk to them just so they have the right frame of mind, because so they don't rush out and do anything. Because as you know, scouts and other people might show up at practice at these high schools or show up at, skills camps and talk to them and entice them to signing something or telling them how great something is. And they didn't take a chance to get a second opinion. They didn't take a chance to run it past anyone else, because as Terrell said, their mind is so clouded with, look, we're impoverished. Look, we have this going on. We need money fast. Let's just sign whatever's presented to us, get this money, and then move on, not knowing that you might be taking a small piece of the pie and really would be entitled to a much larger piece. So that's the importance of it. So I am open to ideas of ways that we can spread this message to protect these young people, because they're vulnerable and we don't want them taken advantage of. Are there any other questions or anything else that I need to clarify? Thank you very much, Terrell. He said a wonderful presentation. I appreciate you watching. I appreciate the support. And again, please hit that like and subscribe button, and please share this video with anyone that you feel can benefit from it. As again, the goal of this channel is to prevent people from being taken advantage of, and to make sure everyone makes the most of all the revenue that they're entitled to, and no one signs contracts that will harm them in the future. Again, I want to thank you, and thank you, Corey. I appreciate your support. We appreciate you always showing up here. Please continue to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. And until the next time, I wish everyone a great evening.